In early January, I tried to predict the WrestleMania 41 card, and this was before Saturday night's main event, before the Royal Rumble, and before the transfer window even closed. So as you can imagine, they aged horribly. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look back and, well, just basically seeing how badly I failed. Now, before we get into things, a quick couple of disclaimers. Firstly, this isn't necessarily the card I wanted to happen. It was just the card I thought WWE were going to do based on their booking at the time. And secondly, I know there were some dirt sheet rumors around at the time about the match cards which ended up being correct, but here at Wrestling Republic, we don't acknowledge dirt sheets. So of course, I didn't acknowledge them in my predictions, and therefore it was even more wrong. But at the end of the day, I was surprised, and that's part of the fun of it. Now let's get into it, and let's kick things off with my prediction that Brock Lesnar was going to return at the Royal Rumble and eliminate Gunther. I also at this time had predicted that Gunther would have lost the World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday night's main event to Jey Uso. I know looking back on it, it was all stupid, right? But at the time, I had my reasons, and I will explain them again a little bit later on. But I predicted it would be Gunther and Brock Lesnar. Finally, I predicted Lesnar was going to return. I'm glad he didn't return, but I did think it was going to happen. Thankfully, it didn't, and instead, Gunther is defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso, who I really didn't think was actually going to be doing much on this WrestleMania card. Up next, we have one of the only ones which I did have correct. The War Raiders defending the Tag Team Championships against the New Day. The New Day had only just turned heel at this time, so it was quite easy to predict. But the next prediction was another tag team match, but on the SmackDown side, and I predicted a 4-way ladder match between the Street Profits, Pretty Deadly, the Motor City Machine Guns, and DIY. Now, of course, as the weeks went on, then Legado got involved in the story too, and I ended up adding them into the predictions when I redid the predictions a few weeks later. But originally, my prediction was a fatal 4-way, and I cannot get my head around why this match isn't happening. I really cannot. They built this story so well. It should be on the card. This match should be happening with Legado involved. Obviously, it isn't now, and the SmackDown Tag Team titles aren't even on the card. So I guess the match which, quote-unquote, replaced it was Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre, one which I really did not see coming in early January. I mean, both guys were actually on Raw, I think, during that time as well. But before we do go any further, if you guys could please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. Here at Wrestling Republic, we create between 5 to 10 free videos every single week, and in addition to that, we do a live daily stream every single day at 8 PM UK, 3 PM Eastern, 12 PM Pacific. I hope to see you guys there. Thank you. Up next, with my prediction that John Cena's final WrestleMania match was going to be against Logan Paul. And at the time, I said I absolutely hated this idea. But based on what Logan Paul was teasing, I thought that's what they were going to do. Obviously, that's not what they ended up doing, and I really do think they told Logan Paul to throw people off the Cena heel turn and had him, try and tease a match with John Cena or something like that. But of course, it's AJ Styles versus Logan Paul now. I'm glad Cena's last WrestleMania match isn't against Logan Paul, but I do have a feeling still this could be AJ Styles' last WrestleMania match, so that kind of sucks. Up next was my prediction that Kevin Owens was going to be facing Sami Zayn. And of course, in early January, Kevin Owens was still feuding a little bit with Cody Rhodes, actually very much. It was right at the height of their feud. But there were little Easter eggs which was being dropped along the way with Sami Zayn. And of course, we ended up seeing the match happen at Elimination Chamber, and it was a banger. But in early January, I did think this was going to be the plan for WrestleMania. Up next, I predicted that the Wyatt Six were going to be taking on the Judgment Day. Now, in fairness to me, I don't think anybody predicted at this point in time that the Wyatt Six were just going to miss WrestleMania and be off TV for months and months and months. And I thought the numbers worked quite well. The Judgment Day Wyatt Six, it was quite an even match. Plus, at this time, the Judgment Day weren't really doing much on TV. Liv Morgan, I think, was still feuding a little bit with Rhea Ripley, or maybe that had just come to an end. But, it really could have been anything for either of them. So I just thought the numbers worked enough where this would make sense. And honestly, if somebody in the Wyatt Six didn't get injured and JD McDonough didn't get injured, I do think this was probably going to be the direction. But instead, we're getting Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. Of course, I couldn't have predicted that at the time, because, El Grande Americano didn't exist at the time. Up next, the Intercontinental Championship bout, and originally I predicted it was going to be Bron Breakker versus Damian Priest. And I remember the week after I predicted this match, Damian Priest got moved to SmackDown and he just got thrown out of the window. But at the time, my thinking was, Bron Breakker, they're going to want to get him on this WrestleMania card. He is the next big thing. They'll want him competing there. Damian Priest is obviously going to have to do something, and I couldn't work out where else to really put him in. So I thought, screw it, this is what I will predict. And obviously, very, very, very wrong. Instead, we're getting a fatal four-way, Bron Breakker versus Finn Balor versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Penta, who at the time I think had only just debuted. Or actually, I'm not even sure if he had debuted yet, or if the teasers were still just happening. But I did not think he was going to find himself a place on the WrestleMania card this quickly. It is actually really impressive that despite the fact that Penta has only been on WWE television for a few months, he's already on the WrestleMania card and is one of the most over stars in the entire company. Fair play to him. Up next, we have the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. And when I first did these predictions, I presumed we were going to see one men's mid-card defended and one women's mid-card championship defended at WrestleMania. And I did predict it was going to be the Intercontinental for both. And at the time, I think that was a little bit of a controversial choice that I made. But I did just think storyline-wise, that made the most sense. But it turns out we weren't going to see either defended on it. Neither women's mid-card title were going to be defended on the line, but I did correctly predict that both Lyra and Bayley would be involved in the same match, I guess. I predicted a four-way with Roxanne and Io Sky as well. In the end, of course, it's ended up being Liv and Raquel defending the women's tag team championships against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Still does feel even more random than my actual prediction, which I thought was random at the time. Up next, we had the really random 8-man tag team match that I predicted. And at the time, I said, I'm pretty sure this is wrong, but I thought all 8 guys deserved a place on this card. Plus, the new bloodline, or whatever they want to call themselves, were feuding with LA Knight and Andrade, continuously taking them out, and Jimmy Uso as well. So I did predict that after dropping the World Heavyweight Championship at the Royal Rumble, Jey Uso was actually going to go over to SmackDown and help his brother and LA Knight and Andrade out, and we would get an 8-man tag team match at WrestleMania. Looking back, and again, even at the time, this was so unlikely. What we've actually gotten, I prefer by 10 times, right? It is LA Knight, taking on Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship. I'm really excited for this one. Then for the Women's Tag Team Championships, I predicted that Jade Cargill will be teaming up with a debuting Jordynne Grace to take on Bianca Belair and Naomi. Now, of course, at this time, Jordynne Grace had left TNA, but had not yet debuted in WWE, so I presumed she was going to go straight to the main roster, and I thought she was actually going to return alongside Jade Cargill, and Jade would be so annoyed, and I did predict that Naomi was the one who attacked Jade, but I also predicted that she was going to be annoyed that Bianca had been teaming with her as well. But of course, in the end, I was massively wrong on this one, and we're getting Naomi versus Jade Cargill in singles competition. Now, a quick tangent, but this match has such a good build. I am so hyped for it. Now up next, the Women's World Championship picture, and I, like most fans, did predict that Becky Lynch was going to return at the Royal Rumble. Obviously, she did not. So my prediction of Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, well, it ended up being completely and utterly wrong. And instead, we've got Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley versus the Women's World Champion, Io Sky. I didn't think in a million years that Io Sky was, one, going to be involved in this, but secondly, was going to be champion at this point. But I'm so glad she is. Honestly, these 3 ladies are going to be putting on an absolute banger this Sunday at WrestleMania. Definitely one of the matches I'm most excited for on the card. It still does suck Becky Lynch isn't involved, but I do understand, obviously, she's taken some time away from wrestling, and I'm looking forward to her returning whenever it does happen. Right, now time to explain this one, shall I? So basically, I briefly mentioned this earlier, but I predicted that Jey Uso was going to dethrone Gunther at Saturday night's main event, and at the time while he was feuding with Gunther, Drew McIntyre was taking out all the bloodline and was kind of feuding with Jey Uso as well. So I presumed at the Royal Rumble it was going to be Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. I thought they were going to give Jey Uso a very short Jeff Hardy-like championship reign and have him drop it to Drew McIntyre at the Rumble. And from there, Roman Reigns would return, try and get revenge on Drew McIntyre, and then basically the rest of the story would play out exactly the way that you would think. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get any credit for this prediction because I got the world title part so wrong and the Drew McIntyre part so wrong as well. But I did predict this when nobody was saying CM Punk was going to face Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Nobody was suggesting a triple threat match at this time. And I predicted it. And then after that, a few weeks later, everybody else did as well. But I did predict this, at least maybe 60% correct. I still do think, by the way, and I'm dying on this hill, that they should have done this four-way. I think Drew McIntyre should have been involved, whether the world title was involved or not. He should be involved in this because he's got such strong ties to all three men. In fact, he basically brings them all together quite a lot as well. Like, the story would have just been way more logical, in my personal opinion, if he was in this match. Up next, another prediction which I did get right. Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. Let's face it, everybody under the sun was predicting this match, weren't they? Still, got it right. It's not really gone the way that I expected it to. Obviously, the feud's been quite messy. But still, I'm hoping they do have a fun match at WrestleMania. And last but certainly not least, the WWE Championship. I predicted that Randy Orton was going to be turning heel on Cody Rhodes, and I was right that somebody was going to be turning heel on Cody Rhodes, but it most certainly was not Randy Orton. It was John Cena. I did not see this coming in a million years. At the time, quite a lot of people were saying we were going to have Cody versus Cena, but everybody was predicting a Cody heel turn. And I said at the time, I cannot see that happening. He's too much of a draw for the company. And obviously, it didn't happen. What I didn't think was going to happen either was Cena was going to turn heel. At the end of the day, I really do prefer the idea of Cody versus Cena, especially with Cena as a heel. So I'm glad they've gone with this. But yeah, my guess, or whatever you want to call it, absolutely sucked. I mean, what was that, 2 for 14? That's really poor. But again, though, obviously, it was before the transfer window, before Saturday night's main event, before the Royal Rumble, so it was incredibly hard to predict. But even still, I'm disappointed in myself. I should have got more than 2 correct. How many WrestleMania matches did you predict correctly before WrestleMania? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video, because all week long here at Wrestling Republic, we are doing WrestleMania related videos, and every day there's a fun video planned. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.